Hi guys, welcome back to Seduce Me, Matthew's route. We left off pretty abruptly last time. Still gonna be a 30-minute thing, but after summer comes along, it'll be longer. Anyways, back to this. I try to recall memories of ever seeing this room, coming up with nothing as a result. This room was new to me. Did I want to disturb the furniture? I'm curious. I gently opened the shelves and any drawers I saw in the room. In a couple of them were books and even sewing kits. I assumed they were used for my grandfather's toys, so I left them alone. One drawer, however, was locked, no matter how many times I pulled. Come on, open! Nothing. It would not budge. The drawer beside it, though, did, revealing a laptop. Why is there a laptop in a drawer? I lifted it from the drawer and carried it over to the desk and chair, opening it. It was a high-tech laptop with a retina scanner as a pass lock. I was not sure whether or not to try to unlock it, or not. Try it? I decided to try. I turned the computer and leaned my face near the retina scanner, lining the camera up with my eye. To my surprise, I heard a ping come from the computer before the screen opened to a desktop. Huh, look at that! On the desktop were documents and folders labeled with different aspects of the Anderson Company. Taxes, profits, bylaws, products. The list went on and on. If I really did want to become the CEO of the Anderson Toys Company, I had everything about it at my fingertips. Dad would sure be impressed. One icon, however, stood out from the rest. Virago. I double-clicked the icon, but no window came up. Instead, I heard a large click come from the drawer that was locked. What the? I slowly left my seat and walked over to the drawer, attempting to open it again. It slid open smoothly in the direction of my pulling hand, revealing two books. One was a plain black journal with a tie to keep it closed. The other was bound in leather with cryptic symbols all over the cover. I took out the journal and skimmed through it, seeing my grandfather's notes. They were all detailed explanations and opinions on his findings on demon magic. He really did know about magic. I sat down at the desk and read through the journal further, finding drawings and sketches of symbols and magic circles, each with their own different meanings and effects. It was all fascinating. There was even a page of important spells to know. I read through them, trying to memorize them in my mind. I don't know what came over me, but I started to feel more energetic and more powerful simply reading my grandfather's notes. I was suddenly aware of the energy that surrounded my body and the power that was around this house. The more I read, the more powerful I became. However, my mind suddenly froze, and I found myself walking back to the drawer, putting the book back and closing the drawer. The lock reset, and I snapped out of it. Huh? What? I shook my head and looked at the drawer, realizing what I had done. I walked over to the desk to reopen the lock, but suddenly felt the need to stop. Something held me back, and I didn't want to pry anymore than I already had. I was curious beyond belief, but I obeyed my thoughts for now. Eventually, I would come back and look into it. I returned to bed, feeling the weight of the morning drag under my covers, trying to sleep again. I had energy, but I wanted more sleep. It was Sunday, and nothing was happening today. Come on, eyes, back to sleep. I shut my eyes and tried to slow my breathing. I looked at my phone to check the time once again. It was noon, yet it felt like I had slept for much longer. Why is time going so slowly? I sighed, got changed into normal clothes, and went out into the main hall and sat on the stairs. Sundays were very boring. However, the muffled sounds of battle caught my attention. Huh? I quickly went to the backyard in response to the noise I had heard. In the yard were all 5 boys practicing fighting. Sam was in the middle, and other 4 surrounding him and throwing punches and kicks at him. Sam, being the strongest of the bunch, blocked and dodged each, almost masterfully. Don't disturb. I just watched. The boys were very much in their own world, focusing on the training they were all in. It was better not to disturb them. I checked the time and decided to head into the kitchen. I was getting hungry, and I'm sure the boys would need to eat soon, so lunch was a must. Might as well make lunch day. It's been a while since I cooked. Lunch wasn't particularly hard. I decided to make cold cut sandwiches, because why not? I assembled simple ham sandwiches for all of us. After I poured some potato chips on the side of each sandwich, I felt satisfied. Who said lunch had to be cooked? I placed the food in the dining room. However, none of the boys were there. By the time I brought the final dish out, I carried the dish to the main lobby, catching the boys separating into different rooms of the house. Part of me wanted to go in one particular. The other part of me wanted to just leave them be and take the food in my hand to my room and eat. Maybe I could go out today while the boys focus on training. Fine, Matthew. I quickly rushed back and grabbed a second food dish before hunting down one of the boys. I looked down each hall, trying to find out one of the incubi wandering so that I could... I looked down each hall, trying to find one of the incubi wandering so that I wouldn't have to go through each individual room finding them. I pursed my lips in irritation. Where the heck are they? I sighed, knowing that I would have to go search for them in each room. I quickly turned and headed back to the dining room one last time. When I arrived, I gasped. Matthew was crouched near the kitchen doorway, peering into it, as if a rat had gotten loose in the pantry, and he was stalking the stalking exterminator. Okay. Matthew?
Shh!
I quickly shut my mouth and pressed my lips together in silence, confused but fearful as to why I had to be quiet. I tiptoed to Matthew, who was crouching by the entrance of the kitchen. His gaze and head moved across to the side of the kitchen, still trying to find whatever he was looking for.
He's in there.
What? Matthew's face was seriously fearful and intense. Who was freaking him out this much? My mind, however, instantly pinned the person down in my conclusion. Malix. Malix? Why did he come back, and why is he in my kitchen? I started to freak out, remembering the fear I had felt the first time we had met. However, I wasn't sure. Where were the others if it was Malix?
I lost sight of him, but I quickly found him and cornered him in there. I know he's in there.
Who's in there?
That fluffy killer thing.
Fluffy killer thing. I bit my lip, suppressing a laugh. I swallowed my laughter down. I let out a sigh. You mean your cute bunny doll?
Yeah, that thing. Wait, it's not cute!
Matthew instantly regretted not whispering and covered his mouth. I couldn't help but giggle. What's he doing in the kitchen? Matthew turned to me with an expression of utmost seriousness. Something told me that what he said would be cute and funny, but I decided to bite my tongue gently to not laugh no matter what.
I don't
know. I failed to keep hold of myself and started to giggle again. The thought of a doll doing anything but sitting there made me giggle. Matthew tried to hush me, waving his arms frantically to keep me quiet. Matthew, Simon's a doll. It can't do anything.
You named him?
Of course, Simon Tabby. Cute, isn't it? Matthew let out some sort of defeated whine before turning back to the kitchen, trying to find Simon from where he was. I placed our food on the table and looked out as well. So what's your plan of attack?
Well, I plan to make my way through the kitchen as quietly as I can, and hopefully not get stabbed.
By a little tiny thing? That's not gonna hurt you. Will it? Sounds simple? Matthew nodded in agreement before finally moving from his spot and tiptoeing into the kitchen. I stood there, unsure of whether or not I should follow suit. Join the hunt. I didn't know why I was up for this, but I followed along. The small adventurous side of me was very happy with my decision, but another side of me was questioning me, asking me why I did that. Matthew slowly walked through the kitchen, scanning the cupboards and surfaces with a meticulous glare. That's not how you spell meticulous. It was both amusing and slightly frightening to see how serious he could be. Do all of your toys get out of control like this?
No, it's just this one. I don't know why. All my other toys are okay.
Other toys? Matthew nodded, stopping a search to look at me.
That's what I do. Make toys. I made them for my mother all the time back in the Abyssal Plains, to help her cope with her position.
Oh. Her position?
She's the fourth wife of my birth father. Each of us have a different mother, and all of them, except for Damien's, are queens. My mom, though, hates sharing, so I distracted her with toys.
Sounds interesting. I didn't know what to say. A demon with multiple wives seemed natural, but I guess because I was human, I felt a twinge of disgust run through my veins nonetheless. Still, it was adorable how Matthew tried to cheer his mom up with his abilities. I was then suddenly reminded of my grandfather and how he made toys for all the time for kids. Matthew's powers to make small toys instantly would have been so useful to my grandfather. I shook my head and began to search for Simon again. Let's keep looking for Simon. Matthew nodded before joining in. I felt like it was a comedy mystery looking for a child's toy instead of a murder weapon.
Come on out, creepy thing.
Its name is Simon. Matthew ignored my statement and I began to slowly open the cupboards, shifting through the inside contents. I decided to follow suit, starting at the opposite end of the kitchen. Matthew, what do we do if we find him?
We stick him back in my pocket.
I looked to Matthew, waiting for him to finish replying. However, he kept his eyes to the ground, trying to answer my question and remaining in thought. I continued to search the cupboards, unsure if this plan was going to go anywhere. Why was I even doing this? Sam and Tabby was a... What the... Matthew and I scanned the kitchen frantically, searching for the source of the laugh.
I knew that thing was evil!
Suddenly, everything went black.
Ah!
Who turned out the lights? I gripped the nearby counter, not wanting to hit anything or fall in the darkness. There were no windows, so the room was almost completely pitch black. Why would there not be windows in the kitchen? That's a fire hazard. I could hear skittering across the floor, like a rat rushing to escape with its cheese in his mouth. I instantly jumped in fear before suddenly being pushed to the ground.
Ah! Watch out!
I felt myself hit the ground with the body on top of me. Two hands were slammed beside my head onto the tile floor, stopping the person above me from crushing me.
Hey, are you okay?
Matthew? Yeah, I am. I stared up at Matthew, letting the situation sink in. We were looking for a doll, and now we were on the ground. What broke my thought was a flash of gold running across Matthew's eyes. I could feel heat radiate from his body, but the air was tense and his body was almost shaky. Matthew, are you okay? I heard him gulp, answering my question. He wasn't okay, I could tell, but he wasn't moving. Matthew?
Sorry.
Soon a golden glow covered Matthew's eyes. I expected to feel warmth in my body from an upcoming spell, but I felt nothing. Something was wrong.
I need you to push me off.
From the sound of his voice, he was desperate to get up and off me. Why couldn't he move, though? Then it hit me. Matthew, do you need energy?
I do. But
Matthew shut his eyes to try to hide his golden gaze from me. He didn't want to take my energy? Why? Was he ashamed to? Kiss him. If he needed energy, I was willing to give it. I gently grabbed Matthew's face and tilted his head to angle it with mine. Leaning in closer to him, I brought my face and his lips up to his and kissed him deeply. I didn't know if this would help, but it was how he got energy before. I shut my eyes, waiting for the draining feeling to reappear in my body. Matthew didn't move, nor did I feel energy drain from me. I opened my eyes and saw Matthew stare wide at me, but unmoving. He was unsure of what to do when I had silenced him in confusion. I pulled away and spoke. I want to give you my energy. You've used a lot of it, and I'm sure that the energy you took from me was only used for healing. Let me help you.
I don't.
Matthew, if you don't want my energy, just tell me, but I'm offering it to you if you do. All of a sudden, I felt the familiar feeling of warmth run through my body once again. I felt my body slightly heat up as Matthew wrapped an arm around my body and pulled my body tighter to his. Matthew grew a lustful gaze before bringing a hand to cup the back of my neck. Before I knew it, Matthew pulled me into a gentle but passionate kiss. Heat erupted from my body as he kissed slowly and almost timidly, and got deeper. Matthew kept an arm around my waist while I rested my hands on his chest. The energy from my body was slowly draining in the kiss, making me feel light and warm. It was almost pitiful how comfortable and how willing I was in this situation. Still, I held no regrets. I was enjoying every bit of this kiss. Matthew was full of surprises. As childish as he was definitely proving to be a man while he was kissing me. Matthew wasn't forceful, but his kiss was deep and passionate, and it felt almost magical. It was how I imagined the first kiss to be like, except for the energy drain. Soon, though, the energy drain stopped, and Matthew gently pulled his face away to end the kiss. I stared up at him as we both panted for air. I had never kissed like that before, and I was so lost in the moment that I had forgotten how to breathe. Matthew moved a little of my hair from my face to behind my ear. I was still full of desire. Matthew stared silently at me, unsure what to say. However, I could tell that he was full, yet yearning. I could feel the hold of his mind-altering spell fade away, but I still felt hot. Something told me that I wanted more, but at the same time, I wasn't sure if I truly did want to give any more. Keep going. I opened the opportunity, and I was enjoying it as much as he was. I wanted more, and I was going to let him keep going. I wanted to keep going. I leaned up and kissed him again. Matthew gasped against my lips, but continued to kiss back. I could feel him pull on the tail of my bow, releasing it, following his hands off from around my neck. He moved the ribbon to his pocket before gently unbuttoning the top 2 buttons of my blouse. The desire in my body drove me insane, forcing him on to escape my lips as he ran kisses from my lips down to my exposed neck. As he began to ravish my neck and shoulder in hot kisses, I leaned my head back and let a pleasurable sigh escape my lips. Matthew was ruthless in his passionate kisses on my skin. Matthew didn't stop touching and kissing me, making more moans and gasps rush out of my mouth into the open air. He may have been full, but he was as hot as I was. I couldn't even comprehend how much we spent making out. I was lost in the pleasure that I didn't care. Call it simple, but I didn't care. I loved it. His touch, his kiss, his heat. I desired it beyond anything at that moment, even as he lowered his kisses down to my chest to just above my brow. My heart was beating wildly in my chest. Something about Matthew intrigued me immensely, but something made my heart quicken for him. It couldn't have been love, but it was too passionate to be lust. What was it? However, I began to feel dizzy, seeing the ceiling start to spin almost wildly. I gripped to Matthew's shoulders, trying to signal him to stop, but my mind faded to black before I could let out another sound. I felt good. I didn't care that I was blacked out. I felt warm and fuzzy in the darkness. I never knew indulging in that kind of passion would be that good. I now just waited to awaken, hopefully in a good way. Check how much time I have. Okay, I got quite a bit. My eyes eventually fluttered open, adjusting to the sight around me. I felt familiar silks underneath me, letting me know that I was in my bed. I slowly sat up, stretching from the tiredness that still lingered. I felt a very soft pain on my neck and shoulders, and I could feel my swollen lips pulse gently and healing. However, when I looked down at my body, I saw that my shirt had been pulled back up and rebuttoned as if nothing had happened between me and Matthew. I was just missing my ribbon. Before I could get out of bed, though, I spotted my ribbon on the pillow beside the one I slept on. It was tied around Sib and Tabby in a nice bow with a small note attached to it. I gently slipped the note from the tie and opened it to read it.
I'm really, really, really sorry. I didn't mean for it to go that far. Please forgive me?
I stared at the note, letting a small smile grace my lips. He went too far. I enjoyed it a lot. It was cute, though, to imagine him thanking me for something we both did and enjoyed. I brought the note to my chest, letting the memories of our meeting flood my mind. I indulged myself too, Matthew. I looked to the time out of curiosity. The large white numbers on my phone showed 5:31 p.m. Yikes, 4 hours of being knocked out and I still feel tired. It was Sunday, so I was allowed to sleep longer if I wanted to. The remainder of the night passed by, surprisingly uneventful. The boys continued to train with each other, but were kind enough to stop and make me dinner. I was glad for that. Unsurprisingly, the food was perfect, but it felt a little empty without the boys to eat with me. They were most likely had already eaten, but still, I felt lonely. I couldn't let it bother me. I ate and went back to my room to study and sleep. Surprisingly, I felt good going to bed that night. I felt like I could have a peaceful sleep after the previous rough nights I had. I felt good. I drifted to sleep and woke up almost flawlessly the next morning. No grogginess, no aches, perfectly energized and bright-eyed. Man, how long has it been since I got that much of good sleep? I looked at my alarm. I woke up 10 minutes before my alarm. Well, hey, I must be lucky today. Karma owed me some luck. After all I had gone through in a merely handful of days, I deserved to get some good luck. Ecstatic for the day ahead, I turned off my alarm before they could ring and got dressed. However, my phone started to quickly buzz from an incoming text. Huh? Who's texting me this early?
Yo, Anderson! You're carpooling with us from now on. We're not letting you waste your money on a bus. Get ready and be at your gate at 7 stat.
I smiled. My friends were the best. I couldn't drive yet, and I didn't have a car, so it was awesome that my friends would let me carpool. I checked the time, 6:30. Perfect, I can eat some breakfast before they come. I packed my bag and carried it downstairs toward the kitchen. As I entered the dining room, I saw a plate of eggs, toast, and bacon sitting on the table. A fresh steaming cup of coffee sat next to the plate with the sugar and creamer on the side. I walked to the table and couldn't help believe what I was seeing. Who made this? As I spoke aloud, a small red note caught my eye. Have a good day. Yours. My heart skipped a beat as I finished. I could tell it was from one of the boys. Maybe it was from him. I smiled before putting the note in my bag and eating up. The food was so delicious I devoured every amazing bite. I looked at the time again. Time to go. I quickly rushed to the doors, checking myself in the passing mirror. I wasn't wanting to impress anyone, but I still needed to look decent. You just tell yourself that. Before I could reach the handle of the door, however, someone took my hand. Huh? I turned to see Matthew, who was holding my hand back with a concerned frown on his face.
My name.
Your name?
My true name isn't Matthew. I want you to know my real name. If something were to happen.
His true name? What did he mean? Why was he telling me this now? I remember reading that a demon's name from the journal I read yesterday. If you knew a demon's true name, you could summon them to you no matter where you were or where they were. Matthew gently pulled me to him and leaned close to whisper in my ear.
My name is Zakeru.
Zakeru. As he said his name, I could feel it lock into my memory. Something in my head would make sure I would never forget it. Matthew pulled away and smiled at me despite still carrying worry in his eyes.
If you are in any danger, call my name. I promise that I'll come and help you.
I stared up at Matthew, unable to say anything. I could only nod in response. Matthew smiled before releasing my hand and heading into the dining room. Something told me that name would be used eventually. And right on cue, Naomi drove up to the gates with Susan waving me down. I rushed out the door and we headed to school, talking about the homework and the coming day. We made it to the school without a hitch. Our lockers were in the same part of the hall, so we quickly unloaded what we needed and got our important books and necessities. First incident of the day. As I walked towards Susan and Naomi, we were both waiting for me on the opposite side of the hall. Something hooked my ankle and made me fall forward. Oops. Probably save. Yes. Back. Whoa! Ow.
Hey, are you okay? Who did that?
The three of us looked back to see Lisette and her gaggle of friends. Lisette had a look of complete innocence when the girls around her giggled like no tomorrow.
Why, you little... Suzu, don't!
I felt a giant fire of anger burn into my stomach as I stared at Lisette. Today was not the only time that something happened to me. However, it was now clear who was behind these incidents. Even if she was innocent and one of her goons did it, it was now obvious that Lisette was a mastermind just from the look on her face. She was no friend, nor will she ever be. I had to do something. I don't know, I've already done everything. Glare into her soul. I glared hard at Lisette, feeling wisps of air and magic run through my skin and veins. However, I stopped at what I saw. Around Lysette was a dark purple aura that seemed all too familiar. It was like demon magic, but it seemed to be tamer. I slowly rose to my feet, collecting my belongings as I continued to stare at Lysette. Something was off. As I continued to look at her, the aura grew, forming a shadow behind Lysette with red-eyed like shapes glowing from within its darkness.
Anderson, you alright?
I couldn't respond. I was entranced by a small hum in the air. It was distant, almost like an ethereal whisper.
Hey, are you okay?
No? I accidentally misclicked, but you already know what happens? Let's go, we'll be late for class. I suddenly felt the need to walk away. So I did. Naomi and Suzu scrambled to catch up and follow my new quickened pace.
Sheesh, Anderson. You look like you saw a ghost. Are you really okay? That fall was pretty bad. I think she saw underneath Lisette's cake face and saw the devil itself. Oh, Suzu, hush!
No, something was wrong with Lysette. It was more than just her being mean. This was something or someone watching over Lysette. Or they were watching me behind Lysette. What they were doing, I didn't know, but it was definitely demonic. Surprisingly, the rest of the day went off without another incident, went to my classes, had lunch, and was anxious to get home. As the bell rang for school to end, I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket. Huh? A text? From Dad. I'll be picking you up today. Make sure you're ready to go when I get there. That's kind of a surprise. It's a trap. Let's just go on. I quickly headed back to my locker and got my things before waiting for Naomi and Suzu.
Hey, are you ready to go?
Actually, my dad's picking me up.
Really? Okay, I guess that kind of makes sense. We'll drive home together next time. Tell your dad that we've got you covered from now on.
Yeah, all right. But even while I laughed, something didn't seem right. My dad texted me to say this. Why was he going to pick me up? Had I done something wrong? I didn't know. I waved goodbye to Naomi and Suzu before heading off to the usual spot where my dad picks me up. I took the time to listen to my music while I waited. I need to go to another Rise of the Phoenix concert. Eventually, I had to play the entire album with no one showing up. What the hey? Dad's never late, especially not this late. I quickly dialed my dad's number again, but as soon as I pressed the call, it disconnected and I read a signal disconnection error message. What the? No signal error? How do I not have signal? I double-checked my phone and saw all 5 bars for signal. He must be in a dead zone. Before I could finish, a group of hands grabbed at my hands, feet, and covered my mouth. I screamed into the hands over my mouth, struggling to pull away from the hands grabbing at my limbs. I felt disgusting and scary, feeling their hands on me. I needed to stop it.
Hey! Don't dirty up Malix's prey!
The voice, which sent a fearful shiver down my spine, whispered into my ear.
You're coming with me, Miss Anderson.
I couldn't fathom what was happening, but before I knew it, I was blindfolded and all my limbs were quickly tied up. I felt myself being carried away somewhere and was shoved into something that echoed the interior of a bus or van. The doors closed and off I was taken, unsure of where I was going and why. All I knew was that I was in trouble. All I saw was darkness. I felt numb as I was taken to a place I didn't know of. I couldn't even move my lips to scream. Sounds zipped past my ears, first of the interior of a car, then the outside, then an echoey space with whispers and cackles of people vibrating through it. However, the wrap around my eyes was eventually removed from my face, and my bonds were cut. It took a while for my eyes to adjust, but I found myself in a warehouse, surrounded by devils, including Malix, who was smirking at me.
Nicely done! I'm sure those little shits will come running to find you when they realize you didn't return to your precious little mansion. They'll search everywhere for you.
Malix walked over and set the barrel of his gun against the skin between my eyes.
It'll be so funny when they find your dead body instead.
All of a sudden, a bright purple light engulfed the room, causing the devils around me to cover themselves.
What the?
Gusts of wind rushed past me, almost forcing me back. I covered my face with my arms, bracing myself and standing my ground. I tried to peek through my arms to see what was going on, but the light continued to shine brightly. As the gusts slowly started to die, the light began to fade, revealing Matthew, with his hands shoved in his pockets and his hood up. Matthew. Malik slowly moved his arms from his face, taking the side of Matthew before laughing hysterically.
Are you kidding me? You summoned the crybaby runt?
Don't call him a friend. He's amazing in his own way. Malik's laugh was cut short, however, stopped by his gasp of pain as the thud of something embedding itself into flesh. I couldn't believe it, but somehow a knife had been stabbed into Malik's shoulder, causing him to grip it out of pain. Dang, Matthew's getting all like thug life or whatever. Oh my god, I can't believe I said that. Oh man, I'm so lame. Anyways.
What the hell? A knife?
He produces knives.
Next time, I won't miss your throat.
Malik snarled before ripping the knife out of his shoulder and tossing it to the ground. He quickly raised his gun and shot at Matthew, resulting only to stare right at his target. In mid-air, a knife and Malik's bullet clashed and both collided into the ground between the demon and the devil. Matthew chuckled and pulled a hand out of his pocket, revealing a handful of knives splayed out like a fan. Like something. That'd be so funny if somebody drew him like in such an outfit and like so long since I played. Nah, my brain's not working today. Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur.
Too slow, Malix. Must suck being an old fart.
Malik instantly grew furious, charging at Matthew while shooting rounds at Matthew's shattered covered face. Matthew followed suit, rushing backwards and shot his knives at each of Malik's shots. Each shot was stopped by a flying knife, making multiple playing feet through the air. The remaining devil stared, trying to figure out what to do: help Malik or watch in silence. Eris, however, walked up beside me and crossed her arms as she watched with an amused smirk on her face. As Matthew backed into the far wall, he stood still, tossing knife upon knife at the incoming devil understood. And I'm going to stop here because I went over, like, a couple minutes. But, yeah. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!